I had always been a creature of the night. The quiet solitude and empty streets offered solace after a long, grueling shift at work. My name is Sam, and I was accustomed to the eerie calmness of our desolate town after dark. People rarely ventured out once the sun had set, leaving the streets to be ruled by the shadows and silence. One gloomy night, the clock struck 11:55 p.m. as I waited at the dimly lit bus stop. The desolation of the place had worn me down, making me aloof to the occasional passerby. It was then that a stranger approached me, interrupting my tranquility. "The next bus is not real. Do not board," he muttered, his voice laced with an unsettling undercurrent. "What time is it?" I retorted, feigning ignorance, but deep down, I knew the time perfectly well. The stranger departed without another word, his gait marked by a haunting limp. I paid no attention to his presence, my only desire being to board the last bus of the night and escape this eerie waiting game. I didn't even glance at his face as he faded into the obscurity of the night. Minutes ticked away, and the digital sign overhead displayed the estimated time for the impending bus. I anticipated seeing 5 minutes or perhaps the more likely 10 minutes. However, my eyes caught a message that sent shivers down my spine. "The next bus is not real. Do not board." I gazed at the sign, bewildered, my heart pounding. I scanned the deserted street, but it remained unchanged. No pranksters, no ominous figures, just the emptiness of the night. I shook off the unease, convincing myself it was some odd glitch. Then, right on schedule, the bus arrived, a minute past midnight. I extended my arm to signal my intent to board. The bus's interior was shrouded in darkness, with only the headlights revealing its presence. I couldn't discern the driver or any passengers. Although I recognized most of the drivers on this late-night route, this time was an exception. I boarded the bus, my unease growing as I put down my usual fare. "Bit dark, isn't it?" I commented, receiving no reply. The doors sealed behind me, and the bus started moving. I managed a hesitant smile, even though I knew the driver couldn't see me. As I searched for an empty seat, I couldn't ascertain if anyone else was on board. I could only hope that no one else would have to experience what came next. The bus immediately deviated from its normal route. It skipped turns and veered down unfamiliar roads. Panic swelled within me. I began to doubt my own sanity, wondering if I had boarded the wrong bus, even though I knew this was the only local service running this late. I told myself that road closures might explain the altered route and attempted to stay calm. After 10 minutes of this nerve-wracking journey, we circled back to the stop where I had boarded. In front of us, I saw the correct bus I was supposed to be on, well lit with passengers on board, waiting at the stop. I raised my voice, struggling to be heard over the rumble of the engine. "Excuse me, can I get off? I'm on the wrong bus." No response came from the driver as we slowly passed the right bus. Its passengers stared ahead, and I followed their gaze, fixing on an ambulance parked a little way ahead. Paramedics surrounded an obscured body on the ground. I couldn't make out the person's face, but one of their legs appeared twisted. The passengers on the correct bus seemed distraught. While their driver conversed with the paramedics, I stood up, my desperation evident. "I need to leave at the next stop." I pressed the bell, and the only illuminated sign read, "Stopping." But it turned off immediately, and subsequent bell presses yielded no sound or light. "I need to." The bus abruptly accelerated, pushing me back into my seat. The tires screeched as we took a sharp turn without slowing down. The velocity was maddening, and I thought I was about to meet my end. "What are you doing?" I shouted in panic. "For the first and last time," the driver replied. "I don't know." My mind raced as the bus's speed intensified, throwing me in all directions. The world outside became an incomprehensible blur, and I had no reference for our true speed. It felt as though we were hurtling into an abyss. With a jolting halt, I tumbled forward. The impact was fierce, and my nose throbbed with pain. I regained my balance, trying to comprehend my surroundings. We had come to a sudden stop outside my house. The bus stop I usually disembarked at was merely a 5-minute walk from here. Yet, here we were, right in front of my home, the doors eased open, and despite my eagerness to escape, I found myself drawn to the front of the bus. I turned slowly to face the still shrouded driver, and I uttered the words I always did, "Thank you." I stepped onto the pavement outside, and the doors closed behind me. The bus pulled away into the darkness. I glanced at my watch, and it confirmed the improbable. A minute past midnight, that eerie night continued to haunt me. I couldn't forget the bizarre bus ride, and the unnerving words from the mysterious stranger. I began to research the history of our town, digging deep into the archives. What I discovered sent a shiver down my spine. Decades ago, a tragic bus accident had occurred. The bus had been en route to my neighborhood when it crashed. The driver lost control, and the passengers had suffered terrible injuries. Many lives were lost, and the incident left a dark stain on the town's history. As I delved deeper, I learned that the crash had occurred at exactly midnight, at the same spot where I had disembarked. The driver of that fateful bus had been injured severely, and he died before he could receive medical attention. I couldn't ignore the chilling connection. The stranger's warning, the twisted leg of the accident victim, and the inexplicable journey all seemed linked to that tragic event. Haunted by these revelations, I couldn't rest. I decided to visit the local cemetery to search for answers. It was a moonless night, and an eerie silence hung in the air. As I approached the driver's grave, I could almost feel a presence watching me. With trembling hands, I began to dig. The grave wasn't deep, and my efforts uncovered an old, decayed uniform. It was the uniform of the bus driver from the accident decades ago. A sense of dread enveloped me as I touched the worn fabric. I glanced around, sensing movement. The driver, ethereal and decayed, stood before me, his form flickering in the dim moonlight. His eyes, cold and hollow, locked onto mine. It was a gaze filled with torment. As if he had been waiting for someone to uncover his secret. "Who are you?" I stammered, my voice trembling in the still night. He didn't respond with words. Instead, he extended a skeletal hand, pointing toward an old, weathered journal lying beside his grave. I cautiously picked it up, my heart pounding as I opened its pages. The journal revealed a chilling tale of the bus driver's experience on that fateful night. He had been driving the last route, much like the one I had taken, when he saw a strange figure at the bus stop. The figure had warned him not to continue, but curiosity got the better of him. He dismissed it as a prank, only to witness the horrifying accident that followed. The bus driver's spirit had been trapped in the eternal loop of that night, trying to protect others from the same fate. He had been trying to send a warning, but his attempts were often misunderstood or ignored. As I read, the spirit seemed to grow more agitated. He gestured towards the bus, as if urging me to finish what he had started. It became clear that he needed closure to move on. With trembling hands, I made my way back to the bus stop, the spirit following closely. The digital sign displayed its ominous message: "The next bus is not real. Do not board." I knew what I had to do. I had to communicate with the passengers on the bus. Just as the driver had tried to reach me, I took a deep breath and boarded the bus once again. The passengers remained in their eerie silence, staring straight ahead, unaware of the driver's presence. I made my way to the front and addressed the driver. "Is there any way to free you from this eternal loop?" I asked, my voice filled with empathy. The driver's hollow eyes met mine, and he nodded slowly. It was clear that he wanted to move on, to find peace. But he needed help. I turned to the passengers, who were still in their trance-like state. "Can any of you hear me? Can you understand what the driver is trying to tell us?" One by one, the passengers began to blink, as if emerging from a deep sleep. Their expressions changed from one of blankness to one of recognition and fear. One of them, an elderly woman, spoke with trembling words. We were all on that bus that night, the night of the accident. We never made it out." The others confirmed her words, sharing their own memories of that horrifying night. They had been trapped in a never-ending cycle, reliving the accident over and over again. I realized that I was their only hope of breaking the cycle. The bus driver had been trying to communicate with others like me for years, but they had always misunderstood his warnings. Together, we made a plan to break the curse that bound the passengers and the bus driver to this nightmarish loop. We needed to recreate the events of that night and make amends for the tragedy that had occurred. The passengers and I worked tirelessly to bring closure to the spirits. We gathered at the spot of the original accident, laying wreaths and lighting candles in remembrance of the lives lost. As we did so, a sense of release filled the air. The bus driver's spirit appeared one last time, his gaze now filled with gratitude. He nodded and slowly began to fade away, his torment finally coming to an end. The passengers on the bus were next. With the weight of their shared memories and guilt lifted, they, too, began to fade, their expressions turning from fear to relief. As the last passenger disappeared, the bus itself began to shimmer and fade from existence. I watched in awe and wonder as the once dark interior of the bus transformed into a bright, ethereal light. The curse had been broken. The spirits had found their peace, and the bus had been released from its haunting journey. I knew that I had played a crucial role in helping them find closure and move on. As the bus vanished completely, a sense of serenity washed over me. The bus stop that had once been a site of dread and mystery now felt like a place of tranquility, and with that, the midnight ride of the lost had come to an end. The spirits had finally found their peace, and I, Sam, had been part of a journey to break a haunting curse that had plagued our town for decades. In the quiet of the night, I walked away from the bus stop, knowing that I had made a difference and that the lost souls could now rest in peace. The Midnight Ride of the Lost is a haunting tale of a mysterious bus ride that defies explanation. It is a story of lost souls, a dedicated bus driver, and a courageous passenger who embarks on a journey to break a curse that has haunted their town for decades. This eerie tale serves as a reminder that the past can come back to haunt us and that sometimes, it takes a brave soul to uncover the truth and set things right. The bond between the living and the departed is a powerful one, and in this story, it is a bond that transcends time and death. The next time you find yourself waiting at a dimly lit bus stop late at night, remember the midnight ride of the lost and the courage it took to break the cycle of a never-ending journey.